and welcome back to Green Pro. Today we're going to go through the latest changes we've made to how you track your qualifications of your operatives in line with the latest MCS guidance for technical supervision. This does apply specifically to the redeveloped scheme. If you've not yet moved over to the redeveloped scheme, then you don't need to worry about it too much, but we will be putting it live for everybody so that you can start to get used to what you're going to have to do when you do transition over. So if we quickly first go through the MCS guide for the supervision, if you've not read this, it is available on MCS's website and it is also in your external documents, particularly if you've transitioned over. And what this guidance does is it gives the role of the technical supervisor, which is the new kind of lead installer versus the old nominated technical person, and how supervision is managed in terms of the complexity of the job and the level of qualifications of the operatives on site. So it goes through the fundamentals of supervision and then it goes through a supervision model. And there are a few tables that we've taken into consideration when doing this. So we have operative levels, which is skilled and qualified, skilled or supervised, with some guidance on each. The degree of risk of the installation, and it gives a couple of examples of how you would try and assess that risk, but it is the technical supervisor's job to assess that risk. And then you would put together the risk level of the project and the operative level in terms of qualifications, and it gives you this RAG rating, red, amber, green. And then based on whatever colour you get in the RAG rating is related to the kind of supervision that is required. So either verbal, so the technical supervisor doesn't need to be there. He can give verbal instructions, but needs to sign off on commissioning. Written, which is obviously a method statement, but periodic. So he gives you a written method statement and he kind of checks in, or she checks in regularly, but they must be involved in commissioning and system set to work stage. Or written but read, which is close and detailed written supervision. So that's still your method statement, which we provide you in your forms, but it has to be a lot more detailed step by step. And the technical supervisor should be there throughout the installation, making sure that everything is working, and then being involved in the commissioning and the set to work. So as part of the installer operating requirements, you have to demonstrate to your assessor that you have the appropriate supervision in place for your jobs. So what we've done is we've made some changes to the R07 personal skills and training matrix to just start to sort of display this. So if we go to the new R07, as you can see, it looks very different to the old R07. And it's how to manage operative levels and certifications. So if you go straight away up to add new operative in the top right hand corner, then you can add a name. I'm just going to put myself in here. I do not have any of these qualifications. That's just a disclaimer. But for now, I will put I'm the tech supervisor for my company, and the date of employment or contract agreement. So I'll say I started at the start of this month. This date of employment is required in the redeveloped scheme. You do have to keep a record of when these operatives came to work for you. So if we create that first, and then my operative profile opens up. So you can say here whether or not they're a subcontractor. If they're a subcontractor and you've added them into R09, then they will be in this list here, or you can just add one manually from here. But I'm not a subcontractor, so I'm going to untick that. And I'm going to say that I am technical supervisor for solar PV and battery storage. So if we first go into solar PV, here we manage the technology credentials. All of the technologies that are assigned to my business are in here. If you only have PV and battery storage, if you only have heat pumps, they're the only technologies you're going to see. So if we go into solar PV, based on the guidance, I'm skilled and qualified. I'm not really, but I'm skilled and qualified. So operatives would be considered skilled who hold an MCS approved qualification, but are not appointed as a technical supervisor. However, a technical supervisor can also be the skilled and qualified person on site. It's only if you need additional technical supervisors that you would need additional skilled and qualified people. So I'm going to say I'm skilled and qualified, and I'm also the technical supervisor. So as you can see, it's given me these little badges here on the right. So because I've said that, the system now wants to know what qualifications have I got. So as you can see, it's required. My 18th edition is required. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to say it's my 18th edition in solar PV, but it's electrical really, isn't it? It's just related to the solar PV technology. You can also add it for battery storage as well, because you need electrical qualifications for that too. I'm going to say that I got my 18th edition on the 5th of April and it doesn't expire. Tick this little box. If it's one of the qualifications that does expire, you just put the expiry date into here, and then I can attach my certificate. So I'm going to attach my 18th edition there. Notes are optional if you want to add them, but you don't have to. And then you save that certificate. So it said Now, my 18th edition is valid and I have a certificate which is now sat down here. I'm going to then add my level 3 award in solar PV. I'm going to say that I got that on the 13th, but this one does expire and they last for 5 years. So I'm going to say that that's going to run out in 2031. Add that certificate to there, save it. And now I've got these and I've got one left. So the last thing that's required is my MVQ level 3. So I'm just going to add that. MVQ level 3. Again, it's going to be an electrical MVQ, but you can just tie it into a technology. So I'm also going to say that that covers me for battery storage as well. I'm going to say that I got my MVQ on the 5th and there's no expiry on the MVQ either. And then I'm going to browse, add on my MVQ and save that certificate. So now it's saying I have got all of the required qualifications to be the technical supervisor for solar PV. There are other optional training that you can add in here. So manufacturer training, any other MVQs that might be relevant but might not be, and any other credentials. So if I've got things like working at heights, anything like that I might want to throw in there, any sort of health and safety related things, then that's all of my qualifications for solar PV. But now, because I'm also going to be on battery storage, I'm going to expand this and I'm going to say I'm skilled and qualified at battery storage. And as you can see, it's pulled through because I'd already said that these two related to 2 technologies. So it's pulled it through into there. Now it's saying that I need, at the moment, a level 3 award in electrical energy storage. So my battery level 3. I'm not going to add that for now. But that's how you manage an individual person. So if they're skilled and qualified, if they're skilled, the core credentials are a little bit different depending on this guidance here from MCS. So for a skilled operative, you need manufacturer training and any other relevant sort of electrical qualifications, but you don't necessarily need the LCL level 3. For supervised operatives, really it's more a case of they're an apprentice or a trainee. They wouldn't necessarily have any kind of formal qualifications yet. They might be learning on the job, in which case there's no formal credentials required, but you can upload anything that you want to it. If you like, if you've put them on manufacturer training, for example, you can still add that in there. It's pulled through the 18th edition in the MVQ because I said that this applied to battery storage. So even if I was only supervised in battery storage, I have the relevant credentials and it's already added them in there for me. I could also put non-applicable, but I have this technology, so I'm going to say that I am skilled and qualified in both of them. I'm going to save that. And now I've been added to my list of operatives. So that's how you add new people to the personal skills and training matrix. Now, what we need to do is show you how this applies to a project. So if we go into projects and I go to new projects, I'm going to apply a quick template. Oh, I've applied a heat pump template. That's not helpful. Solar test, there we go. That's solar PV and battery. It's pulled my surveyor name in, it's pulled my name in and so on. But now it's asking me for a technical supervisor. So technical supervisor for this job is telling me I've got 3 available people who are fully qualified to be the technical supervisor for PV. So I'm going to say myself. Can I add another technical supervisor? Yes, I can if I want to. Then I can add another operative. So as it's showing me here, I've got Bob, who's skilled and qualified, Bryony, who's skilled and qualified in PV and battery, James, who's skilled and qualified in PV and heat pumps, and then myself again, but I wouldn't be on the job twice. So I'm going to say that James is on there. And then it's asking me for a degree of risk. Now it started to ask me for this degree of risk because I've added an additional operative. If it was just me, and this applies to sole traders, anybody who doesn't use any other operatives and you just install on your own, all of this technical supervision doesn't apply. As per the guidance, it basically just says if you are a sole trader, none of this is relevant, but it obviously, because you're just supervising yourself. But obviously if there are multiple operatives, then the technical supervision RAG rating kicks in. So because I've got myself and one other person, it's giving me a degree of risk. I'm going to say this is medium risk, but there is a little option here saying help me choose, and you can click on this and this gives you a little bit more of an expanded idea, which is taken from the MCS guidance. So all of this information here is taken from there to help you. So we'll go next, put in some quick customer details. And then what it should have now is given me a technical supervision approach. So as you can see, it's got me as the PV technical supervisor, but I did not add myself as a battery storage technical supervisor. I just said I was skilled and qualified. So it's telling me that because this is a multi-technology project, I need to have technical supervisors for both. If I am the technical supervisor for both, then it's fine. But at the moment, I purposefully left that off so you can see how it kind of guides you through. And you can hover over these little buttons and it'll tell you what it is there. So I've got James here as well. I've added James. It's saying to me that there are no valid certificates uploaded to support solar PV skill level. So James is in my RO7, but I've not given him any certifications. So I can just click on add certification for James and it takes me through to his operative profile. Now I can say that he is skilled and qualified in solar PV, but I need to add these certificates. So if I go to 18th edition and add that for James, say that he got that and there's no expiry in exactly the same way that I did for me. Save that certificate there. Add his LCL level 3 for solar PV, say that he obtained that and it runs out in 5 years. And add that certificate there. Click save. And there's one more, which is his MVQ level 3. So I can add that too. MVQ level 3. So he obtained that and it has no expiry. And then add that for it and save the certificate. And then I can save James. Go back to the project. And you'll see that it's got rid of that guidance because James now has everything that he needed to have to be able to be an operative on this project for this verbal technical supervision approach to apply, which is that we have a technical supervisor who is fully qualified. We also have a skilled and qualified operative in James that's on site as well, and therefore very, very minimal technical supervision approach is needed. So it's just green and verbal. Now, if you have, for example, a supervised operative, so we can add a new person and we're going to call her an apprentice. So for solar PV, she is supervised, so she has no formal credentials. So all of these are optional because there's nothing for her to be supervised. She basically means that, she's very, very start of her career, doesn't really have any official qualifications. She might be gaining those while working for you. Again, you have a little help me choose here for the operative level to show you, basically explaining from this guidance what it is that they need to have to sort of hit all of these different levels. So I'm going to say that she's supervised and she has no qualifications. So we're going to save her. Now, when I go to the project that I've just done, I can edit it and I can add another operative. So I can add a supervised operative, no qualifications, needs more supervision. I can add a supervised operative to this job. Because I've got a technical supervisor, I'm a skilled and qualified person, the technical supervision approach is still verbal. However, if I make this a high risk and I remove James, so it's just me and then a supervised operative, I've made a change. It's not automatically updated, but it's basically telling me recent changes may affect supervision approach. So because I've removed a skilled and qualified operative and I've added in just a supervised operative, somebody who needs a little bit more hand-holding, it's saying verbal is actually not the way to go on this project anymore. So let's update the approach. And now it's gone to red because we've just got one operative that's supervised. So the technical supervisor, i.e. me, needs to be a lot more involved in how this goes. This will also be exactly the same for if for example, Shelley Jones is currently a supervised operative. If all of a sudden she becomes skilled and qualified because we've put her through all of her qualifications and she's done all of the on-the-job training that she needs to do. So let's just add all of her qualifications here. last one. She's also sat her MVQ. So this could be, a good, in the future, several months later, for example. Put through all the courses. She's fully qualified. She's done. She's ready. Go in between these little toasts here and save that. When I go back to this project, she's now skilled and qualified. As you can see, it's updated. So it's telling me recent changes may affect the supervision approach. It was read and written because Shelley was supervised, but now that she has become fully qualified, if I update that approach, it's gone to amber, and that is because this was a high risk job. So technical supervisor, skilled and qualified, but a high risk job means there is more technical supervision. If I change that degree of risk back to medium, then that would be back down to green based on this RAG rating. So what this does is it doesn't automatically change the technical supervision approach based on the qualifications of the individual operatives, because it might be that at the time that this project was being installed, that person wasn't fully qualified and therefore that supervision approach was warranted. But in the future, when you add them to a new project, it will obviously use the latest technical supervision approach. If you create this project, you put all the people on there, they're at their certain levels, but nothing happens. You don't install the job yet. You come back in 3 months' time when the customer's ready to go ahead. And in that time, those operatives have added to their skill level, then you can recalculate that technical supervision approach to make it reflect the job at the time. But we wouldn't say that you would go back and recalculate for ones that had already been completed when they were at that particular skill level. So that is a whistle-stop tour of the technical supervision. What this is for is to demonstrate to your assessors under the redeveloped scheme that you have got the appropriate technical supervision in place. It's a really big part of the redeveloped scheme, and the certification bodies are looking at it and are focusing on it. And what we've given here is basically a fail-safe way of demonstrating that the technical supervision was factored in, that the supervision approach was recorded, that all the operatives on site were recorded at the time. You have a degree of risk of the job at the time, and you can show that to anybody that comes asking. So this is available now for everybody, whether you've transitioned or not. So you don't have to start using it now, but we would recommend you starting to get used to it so that when you do transition over to the redeveloped scheme, you have this all ready and understand how it all works. But if you have any questions at all, or if you're not sure about anything, then do just let us know. If you have any feedback as well, then we'd love to hear it. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much for watching.